Hello, my beautiful badgers. Messi Coda back again with another game dev interview. Now, let me ask you some questions. Have you heard of voice actors? Oh, you have? Good. Have you heard of voice stunt actors? You haven't? Well, this is the interview for you because Sébastien Croteau from the Monster Factory is joined by Brian, aka ssNightShadow, which explain to us exactly what is a voice stunt actor and to give a load of tips and advice. Sebastian's been the voice behind the Hulk on many games and movies such as Guardians of the Galaxy and Dead by Daylight and so much more. So sit back, enjoy, and I'll see you all in a moment.
Well, long story short, I started my career in voices as a choir boy when I was 7 or 8. And then I started to sing metal music when I was 15 years old. I started in 1990 and then being a death metal vocalist for 33 years now. And since 2005, I've started to do voice acting for video game, mostly, of course, given what I do with my voice. I was asked to do creature and monster vocalization. And since 2005, I've been doing a bunch of video game. My first game was actually Far Cry Instinct, the first one on Xbox. And the second one I worked on was Assassin's Creed 2. I was paid to do choking sound for 2 hours. for the character in there, and after, because back then I never considered that to be a full-time job. It was just like something like, okay, let's do it, once in a while, and it's good. But then 4 years ago, I actually created my company because I saw that there was more demand from video game company to have something a little bit more realistic and not processed through dozens and dozens of layers of computerized voice effect. And I created the company, the Monster Factory. Actually, that's what it's called. It's pretty straightforward, right? And since then, I've been traveling over the world, meeting amazing people like Brian, that I met the first time in Sweden. And we've been working on a lot of different games. Like some of the last one we've been working on was Warhammer, the Realms of Ruins. We did a lot of creature vocalization for the game. Baldur's Gate 3, we did a couple of creatures and monster in them. And Dead by Daylight, we've been doing a bunch of survivors and creature and a lot of others. So I've been probably working on 50 different video games and a couple of movies as well.
Right.
So this is me, and this is my this is a part of my movie collection.
A massive collection.
Yeah,
and your game collection as well. You have a massive game collection.
The game are on this side. The music is on the other side. This is my room of geekiness.
Yeah.
Right. So this is my man cave. Like, this is where I come when I was like all that thing around me. And the thing is, I'm not really digital in the sense that I don't buy MP3. I'm still buying vinyls and CD. I'm still buying a hard copy of the video game and a hard copy of the movies. I still have Netflix, but I love to increase once in a while my collection.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, dude. So yeah, I mean, what made you want to get into the actual voice acting of the monsters in general?
Again, I think that being a death metal vocalist and doing weird sound with my voice, like really creepy sound, was kind of a point of entry for me to do that kind of thing, because I do remember that the first video game I did because one of my friend, Alexandre Pelletier, this is where I'm using my French-Canadian, Alexandre Pelletier, was actually a friend of a band that I've been touring with. And he's the one who actually introduced me to the audio director back then working on Far Cry, because it was like, hey, you're looking for something new? I know this guy. This guy can do like crazy voices. You should talk to him. And so that was by accident. That was not by design. I did not start a career, and death metal singing and say, at some point I'm going to do some voice acting for creature and monster. This is not something that I envisioned. That it was just okay, let's do that. And then, of course, the first time I did it, I was like, wow, this is something that I could do maybe a little bit more, maybe once in a while. And again, the first couple of times it was for Ubisoft Montreal, Far Cry Instinct, Assassin's Creed 2, and Prince of Persia. And it is at this point that there were several characters that we needed to voice. And they were like, do you have any friends? Of course, I'm a metal vocalist. I don't have any friends. No, I'm joking. I know a few people, but I know all the metal vocalists in Quebec and in Montreal. I was like, yeah, I do have a few people. If you have female characters, if you have I can have more people involved. And we actually started there, and over the years, and it took a while. It took a good 10 years. We came to a size of around 20 people in Montreal. And this is where it really started to, because people were talking and, hey, you should because audio people, like any kind of field in video game, people are talking together.
Right.
And sorry. And at some point I was like, okay, I'm going to create a company. And I'm going to look for other people around the world because, of course, games are localized. And even monsters, sometimes they do talk. They do have a language, and sometimes that language need to be localized. So I was like, okay, I need to have people all around the world, because if I'm doing some stuff in English or in French, I need people to be able to do it in Portuguese. I need people to be able to do it in German and Italian and different languages. So this is where I actually expanded the team to different countries. So right now we are a little less or more than 100 metal vocalists. Of course, and this is something that is important for me to mention, those are not trained voice actors, right? They are professional screamers. And for me, what I call them is basically, I call them vocal stunt performers. Right? Because basically we're not doing any long script lines and stuff. It's basically just weird sound like that, and so it's still acting, but we don't need the same kind of training as a professional voice actor who have to deliver tons and tons of script line. It's something different. And I actually train the people that when they have a contract and it's their first time, I actually do a lot of training with them to make sure that they deliver. Because otherwise, I don't want my client not to come back because I delivered something bad, in terms of product. So I always make sure to train people before that. So again, it was by accident that I arrived in this voice acting thing, and I started to work in video game. Both were happy accident, But there's no hazard. For me, it was maybe always there, but at some point it just presented itself to
That's
me.
Crazy. Someone, Jawa said, "Can one cough in German?"
Or nine. There you go.
Yeah. So, I know we've spoke about this, but how was the training for this, and what were some of the training stuff that you've done? Because I've heard plenty of stories, and some of them are incredible.
Yeah, it really depends on the type of gaming characters that we are doing. One of the things and that's true for human and creature, because sometimes we're doing human, that are screaming, but one of the things because this is basically what I've been doing. I rarely work with script line. Because again, monster, they do talk, but they rarely talk. It's mostly vowels and consonant, basically. One of the very few role that I had a script line was the Hulk in Guardian of the Galaxy. I had to do the Hulk smash thing. We don't see him; we just hear him in the background. But apart from that, we don't have a text, we don't have script line to convey emotion. We just have vowels and consonant, and we make sure that every action, because in video game, whatever character you are doing, human or creature, you have your idle, you're walking, you're running, you have attack, you have pre-attack, you have dead by fire, you have dead by whatever, ice, electricity, you have pain light, pain medium, pain hard, you have charge, you have like tons of different action. And at some point, as a voice talent, especially because we have no script, it becomes a little bit hard on the imagination to come up with all the variation that we need to deliver. Because in video games, even if they put only 5 variation of what you have done in the game, you sometimes need to record 15 to 20 variation. So if it was just one action, that would be fine. But in a 3-4 hour recording session, it's basically 40 action times 15, 20 variation. And at some point, we're already in a performance, physically speaking and vocally speaking, but we still have to come up with every single variation. And it can become really hard. At some point, we just draw a blank and we just redo the same sound we've been doing. So what I started to work with is actually something that I call a phonetic script. So it's basically the sound that I'm about to perform, let's say for pain sound. So let's say you are bumping your small toe on the table. Apart from the swearing, it probably will sound like something with the letter A. You know? And instinctively, we go to these vowels when we are in pain, right? So of course, if we do any pain sound, that vowels has to be in there. So if you want to make sure that it's different enough, well, for me, what I'm doing, as an example, I'm playing with the vowels. So let's say A, A, O, O, A, in French, it's E in English, but I'm not saying E, so let's say, and then A, I, or E, whatever, in French. So we're playing with the vowel placement, and then we can switch the placement, and I'm just writing it down. And then we can go through that, and it's been really increasing, the amount of stuff that we can deliver, because we don't have to come up with a variation. It's already, so you can focus on the performance. So this is one tool that I'm using to train people so they can deliver faster a variation when they need to do that. And it works for both. It works for human and it works for monster. Because for monster, if I'm, let's say, a big dumb ogre and I'm suffering, I'm gonna go, oh, oh. I'm still playing with vowels and consonant, right? So it's the same thing. So I'm just switching the voice technique depending on what I'm doing. So this is one. Of course, I'm training people to be able to do different voice technique, because a lot of people that I work with, they can do like, a couple of different voice technique, probably sometimes 4 or 5. But just to give you an example, I recorded myself for a project that we have 2 days ago, and I was able to do 27 different sound.
Jesus.
And not just different because I'm playing with the resonance of basically with different parts of my voice. You can use, the uvula, and the uvula is the little thing that is dangling the back of the throat for people who don't know. And this was actually the voice technique used to voice a predator. If you listen to the interview of the voice actor who did the voice of the predator, of course, it's been sound design afterwards, but it's really that little, that thing that he did. So you can use the uvula, you can use the tissue at the back of the soft palate, you can combine things, you can use epiglottis fold, you can use vestibular fold, you can use a vocal cord, you can do inhale voice technique, like there's so many. And this is one thing, to make sure that all the voice talent that I'm working with are versatile. They can do a spider, or they can do an orc, or they can do different things. And the thing is, we're lucky because there's been so many scientific studies about extreme voices in the last 30, 40 years. Like it started in 1992, actually. Most people think that it's just screaming, but it's much more than that. It's much more than just screaming, and because there's an actual voice technique behind that. Like myself, I've been doing that for 34 years. You know, most people would assume that I have a problem with my voice. Like if I'm coughing, just for the people, hey, he's coughing. Well, I've been doing monster sound like all day today. You know, so at the end of the day, I might be getting a little tired. But the thing is, I add a laryngoscopic examination. So this is a camera going through the nose and looking at my instrument. And even the doctor were kind of baffled because, like, you've been screaming for 34 years, like, you're going to have some damage. Like, it's going to be damaged. It's going to be, like, whatever. And they were like, man, we don't understand. You're perfectly vocally healthy. I'm like, well, I do believe that there's a way to train. And that's the thing. Like, I was lucky enough to learn Tibetan throat singing and Inuit throat singing and different form of throat singing. A little bit after I started to sing metal music. And I do believe that this helped me tremendously because first, it's more relaxing than singing death metal music, but also because the vibration pattern, we're using basically the same thing. You know, when you listen to Tibetan monks doing what they do, they use not the real vocal cord. Of course, they use a real vocal cord. They're in there, but the way they're able to produce that flow sound is that because they're using what people call false vocal cords, so vestibulofold, right? So when they do sing, they go like this. And the thing is, people think I'm singing low when I do that, but if I remove the distortion, see, the note is higher. So by doing that voice technique, I'm actually producing a note 1 octave below the fundamental. It's called a subharmonic. And the thing is, if you look at death metal vocalists, when they do like this, it's basically the same thing. We're producing a subharmonic. If I were to remove the distortion from that, I'm singing higher than what people hear. Right? So Tibetan voices and death metal voices, if you look at the acoustic phenomenon, they're quite the same. So for me, when I do Tibetan chanting and everything, it allowed me to relax and work in a more synchronized way what I use for death metal. And of course, there's a bunch of different, you know, training exercises, breathing exercises, being able to have amazing breath support is one key thing when you do extreme voices, and tons of other stuff. And this is some of the things that I'm teaching, not only my voice talent, but I'm teaching, you know, I've been giving workshop in United States in Los Angeles with the Out Network, in UK with Wonderland VO, and now I'm going to teach with Brava UK, and there's tons of other stuff. So this thing, it's teachable, that people can learn how to do extreme voices, but you really have to commit to the training. Like, if voice acting is difficult, doing extreme voices in voice acting is like, you know, going to the Olympics of vocal stress. So you have to be prepared for that kind of thing. You have to be prepared for that kind of thing, but anyone can do it. We all have the same part, right?
Yeah.
You have a vocal cord, you have false vocal cord, you have a uvula, you have a tongue. Like, it's not because of some magic trick or genetic disposition. It's just that we all have the same thing. The only difference between me and other people is the training. I've trained a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot. So yeah. So this is part of the things that I'm doing, you know, to train my people to just be the best. And it's working a bit.
It's working, yeah. Yeah, speaking of that, I mean, so, you know, you started working out with a lot of both indie studios and now AAA companies. You know, you're pretty heavily involved in all that stuff. You know, at what point do they start contacting you? Or what point should a studio start contacting you?
Well, the thing is, and I've experienced that with Guardian of the Galaxy, because we worked on Marvel Guardian of the Galaxy. Before that, most companies were contacting us really like as, not last resort, but, you know, like the last mile of the race. I'd be like, oh, yeah, maybe we should have some. And they contacted me and they were like, hey, can you do zombie voices and all that? So next week you're going to go to the studio. So we didn't have a lot of time to go in depth, for different sound or go in depth with the characters and really say like, well, okay, like they want zombie sound, we're going to do zombie sound. So, you want that, perfect, we're going to go there. And a week after we were there. But the thing is, like, for me, creature and monster deserve love. In the sense that if you take a lot of time, preparing the voice talent for the regular voice acting, you spend a lot of time on music composition, you spend a lot of time on everything, but then for the monster, it's let's just do a couple of things and it's fine. For me, you're missing something important. In any kind of video game that has monster and creature, heroes are created because of the thing they have to confront or fight against.
Right.
And in a game where there's monster and creature, where they have to fight against that. So the hero really is created because of those things. So for me, it's always been like, maybe people should focus a little bit more on that. Just a little bit more. Because for me, if the monster and the creature are epic, the hero is going to just be more heroic, or seems more heroic at the end of the day. And for Marvel Guardian of the Galaxy, actually 2 years before we started to record, we were actually approached by the audio director, Steve Shukowski. I was like, I would like to, incorporate you like really early stage so you could look at the visual. You could, make me some proposal about the sound for the different characters. And I might need a few alien languages, because that's one of the things that we discussed the first time, is that we didn't want the alien to just speak English.
Right.
Like the Star Trek thingy where, well, everybody can learn English and there's like maybe sometime a little bit of Klingon or other kind of language. Well, like, the cantina scene in Star Wars, the first one, when they go in there are different sound, different weird stuff happening. And there's a few people that speaks English, of course, but it's not all that. The sound environment is rich in different things. So it was like, maybe down the line, a couple of alien languages. And I was like, okay. So we started like really early, 2 years again before recording, working on looking at all the visual. And then from the visual, but also from the description that I had of their background. Because sometimes the background, even for monster, the background of a character can influence the type of vocal proposal that I can come up with. So we have like probably almost 30 different characters and monster. So the first time we worked on, it was me going to Steve back and forth, different sound. I'm mostly recording in the morning when I go up and my voice is like crystal clear, so I could do some different thing. So I was sending him video like really close to my mouth with my bathrobe. Like it's not a pretty sight to look at, those video, but it's just funny because for me it was the only important thing was just that he could listen to what I was doing, vocally speaking. Right. And then after, I had to invent 5 different languages for the game based on the voice technique we were doing for the aliens. Right? Because that's something like, depending on what type of voice technique I was using, let's say that for one alien, I was mostly using, something that I kind of, I'm going to do the voice, it's going to be easier to explain. So something like, a voice like this. And the thing is, with that kind of voice, there's some consonants and vowels that are easiest to pronounce, right? So I had to go through the alphabet with each voice technique, find which consonant vowel were easier to pronounce, and then start invent the language based off that. And then after that, of course, I had other people doing those voices, so I had to train them to be able to nail the alien languages before going to the recording studio. So that's the thing. Like, and now I'm doing more and more game when they really have us working on the sound creation with them. Because the thing is, with creature and monster, there's what I call vocal archetype. Now because of the Lord of the Ring, if you think about any kind of goblins, right?
Right.
Hey, master, anyone yet? This is something high pitched and distorted. If you think about orcs, meat is back on the menu, boys. It's something down there.
Favorite line right there. My favorite line.
Exactly. And this is true for many kind of creature and monster. Zombie, there's kind of 4 different voice technique build around the zombie voice technique. And so you have to know that. And then when you know those vocal archetype, then you can come up with something, because of course, like many clients, all the clients always ask me, like, can you do something really unique? And I want something like that has never been done before. And I'm like, maybe why don't we try to deliver something that fits the character and that is in tune with what people have in mind in terms of audio references for those characters. Because it's not always that you can take risk with audio references. The clicker, for The Last of Us, the clicker, they kind of introduce a new voice technique for the zombie type, right? For the clicker. Now it's really iconic, the clicker sound. But if you listen to a movie like The Grudge, like they were using the kind of clicker sound back then, and they just kind of, so it was nothing new. You just tweaked it a little bit to have something new. So when you know a bit about horror and voices, you know that reference. But they took a risk and it paid off. But now it's become really iconic of the clicker. But most of the time, for me, it's better to deliver that something that goes with what people have in mind. For those type of creature and character. But then again, being able to work with the company before, work on the sound, come up with some ideas, try them.
Right.
Like we just finished a project for a lot of the creature. We did 3, even 4 layers of voice for them. But it was only because we were able to work before, to have the visual, to have a description, to have the background, that we were able to propose a lot of different sound for those characters, and it worked. The client absolutely loved it.
That's awesome.
So that's the kind of thing that when you get us on board, well, like any kind of project, when you get people on board before, usually there's when you work with creative people, like most of the time, what they have to propose is better because they have more time to work on it, right? It's not
and
just
you want to be on fairly early, like with the stage. Like you want to be there, hopefully about the time they're making the characters or designing up the characters, because what's possible, what's not possible. Like you can only push sound so far, right? Like
absolutely. And even now, sometimes when incorporated at a point where there's no color on the video animation, that means sometimes it's really early in in the process. But that's the thing. It's when you take your time and you put some love into something, usually the results are better than if you just rush things, right? And it's true for anything in life, and it's true for monster and creature sound as well.
That's awesome. And I do highly recommend anybody going to the website and checking out some of these videos, because I've watched them numerous times and I absolutely loved both the interview of the Dead by Daylight and the Guardians of the Galaxy. And they were just incredible to watch. It was
it's really a kind of little peek, right? It's a little peek beyond the curtain. Of course, it's hard to summarize 2 years of work on the game and couple of years of work on another one. But but you're right. I do believe like having behind the scene footage, especially for audio, it can be really interesting. Like one of the things that I was like, why they didn't do it is, let's take for example The Walking Dead. Have you ever seen a behind the scene footage or really something that is focusing on the zombie voices in one of the most popular zombie series of ever? No. They've never done it.
I love it when companies really do it. Like we I had a couple of talks about certain companies, and it's like I've watched all of their videos. I love the little behind the scenes, the how tos, what it is that got them to where they were, whether it was interviews with, other people or people in the industry, or even, completely outside the industry, but they're making a game about something. So like, yeah, we have to go here and talk to these people and figure out, what makes this type of thing tick. And it was quite insane. The level of fidelity, level of detail, and just, the straight up passion that these guys had. Um,
Absolutely. And
Looking at your
again,
portfolio here.
sometimes working in audio is a little bit cruel because when you do a good job, people don't notice it because it's just
Right.
part of the environment. But when there's a little mistake, oh my God, people are like,
Yep.
where this sound? And the thing is, the smallest mistake in terms of sound can actually break an immersive experience.
Yeah.
Because like you're all immersed and you're in that sound, and there's at some point there's like a sound that is shouldn't be there or whatever, and bam, it breaks the immersion, and you have to get back to it. So it's. But anyway, this
Yeah.
is why we do what we do, is to make things better and try to not make those mistakes as much as
Yeah.
possible.
I feel like, and I've been saying this for a long time as well. Like even in pretty much in all aspects of game development, because I mean, even as an environmental designer, no one's really gonna care. The player isn't gonna care when they're walking around the world and they're seeing, the little grass and stuff and everything you placed on the little terrain and stuff like that. Like that artist could have spent, a week in that one little spot, and the character walks right past it. But if it wasn't there, it would have been completely noticed. And audio is one of those things. And I think people sleep on audio more than they should, of waiting to the last minute or kind of putting it secondary. I've been saying that for years, and it's a testament to what you guys do. I mean, you guys literally, I was kind of just strolling the portfolio page on your website, and just how many games that you've had your part in your hand in. It's incredible, man. It really is. It truly is.
We have been blessed, and that's the thing. Like, I never had a typical voice actor career, because when you start in voice acting or in theater, whatever, you do small play, you do student movies, you do like small
Right.
stuff, and then at some point, you're desperate, so you start doing audio books, and then at some point, you book your first commercial. And you're all excited. And then after, it's a national commercial. Then after that, it's a voice in a movie. And then after that, it's the voices in AAA video game.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
is the
100%.
this is the typical voice acting career. Me, I started right into like, oh yeah, you want to work at AAA, like Assassin's Creed, like this and that, and I was like, oh my God, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, like a thief. From Montreal. It was some of the first game I worked on. So I didn't start the same way than most people in there. And I'm still lucky that I when you look at the project we've been working on, it's like, yeah, people keep coming to us because we really have a niche in what we do. But the thing is, people are trained to do what we do. It's hard to be able to find a regular voice actor who can usually scream safely for more than 20-30 minutes because they don't have the training for that. We
Spitting up
usually
blood later.
usually we do it like for 3-4 hours because we have the training to do that kind of thing, and it takes a long time to train for that. It takes years to actually be able to train to do that I don't like the word safe because it's never safe, but in a safer way than most people, right? And that's the thing, because of our specialty, like now, and this is one thing that I'm really proud, because when you look at extreme voices, like even 30 years ago, it was considered vocal abuse. And it took a
Right.
while before it was actually considered a real voice technique. Like even today, for most people, when they hear that, people think, it's just screaming. There's nothing behind that. It's just people screaming. But it's way more than that.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm proud of is that with the work we've been doing, like in movies and in video game. Now those industry recognize the value of what we do.
Yeah.
You know, there's a recognition, but not only that, we are getting paid.
You're right.
Which,
That
you know,
helps.
when you play metal music, you know, it's mostly for passion, and not a lot of people are making money because they're, you know, I've been playing metal music for 30 years, and I spend more money than I earn,
Yeah, that's how
you
it
know,
works.
in gear and in website and in whatever. And for me, I'm just glad that people who have spent 5, 10, 15, 20 years of training for something, that for the first time in their career, they're actually getting a paycheck because of
Yeah.
that specific training. And I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of that.
That's amazing. Yeah, was that polyps are serious business? I don't know the first words of that. For not using your voice to hold. Oh, is that spelled? I have no idea what you said there. My bad, dude. I can go a couple hours, but my voice is gone the next day. I am 100% the same way. I talk in meetings and stuff, and my voice is destroyed. Like just regular talking, let alone screaming and all the voices that you do.
Yeah, but the thing is, you know, when we're talking, we're not in control of the way we place our larynx or breath support because it's too
Right.
instinctive. But when I scream, when I have to do that, I'm controlling everything. I'm controlling the
Right.
breath support. So this is why, like, even for me, you know, when we met at Nordic Game, like talking is way more vocally stressful, sorry, for me than screaming for like 3-4 hours. Because
Right.
I can do
Yeah.
that.
There's a
I'm a
whole nother
little
technique.
tired, but I'm
Whole nother
fine
process. Yeah.
because it's not intuitive. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I need to be in control. When we're talking, like the only thing we control is the word that are coming out of our mouth. We're not controlling the instrument. We're just thinking about the words, and it's coming out.
Right.
You know, so this is why it's tiring, because there's that loss of control that we have over a voice, that we're just like, we're there. And of course, when there's loud music and smoke or whatever, we need to speak louder than normal, and this is for me like a voice killer. Like
Yeah.
I try to avoid that as much as possible. So and of course I do a lot of different exercises to keep my voice healthy. You know,
Right. Makes
that's
sense.
the thing. But no, like I'm teaching every day, or recording every day. And when you look at metal vocalists, they go on tour, right? And they touring, let's say 1 month at a time, but sometimes they tour like 5, 6 months in a year. So imagine the capacity to be able to scream every day for 30 days, and then going back home, you know, working a bit, and then going back on tour, and they have to scream again 1 hour every day for 30 days.
That's
So we have,
insane.
that's the kind of vocal endurance we have, and that kind of vocal endurance is nowhere to be found in voice acting.
Right.
Like voice actor on the train and for me, this is why I call the people that I work with vocal stunt performers, because the kind of training in movie takes to be a stuntman.
Mhm.
It takes a lot, you know, to become a stuntman or a stuntwoman. Well, that's kind of the same thing. We need that very specific training to train muscle memory, to train endurance, to be able to deliver that. And you know, it's not all actors who want to do their own stunt. And this is why, for me, when I think about vocal stunt work, well, vocal stunt work should be performed by vocal stunt performers.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so for me,
Right.
it baffles me when I know that actors are not trained, but they still try it because it gives them a paycheck.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it completely jeopardizes their vocal health. But they're like, oh, yeah, I'm getting a paycheck. I'm not trained, but I'll try it. It's like if you like sports and once in a while you're doing sport, it's like if the Olympics were coming to you and say, hey, we're going to pay you $400 to come and participate to the Olympics. You know,
Right.
maybe because of the paycheck, you would say, hey, you know, let's try it. But you
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to compete. It might even be, you know, not healthy at all to do that. But
Right.
sometimes people would do anything for a paycheck. And
That
I
is true.
understand that.
That
But
is
they're
very
not
true.
trained for that.
So I know we kind of hit it on earlier, but out of everything you've done, because you've done just everything at this point, what has been by far your favorite thing to voice act, and what is kind of next for you as like what you want to do eventually?
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's actually two characters. Like, if you were to ask me what are the, your top 5 character that
Mickey Mouse. No.
No. Well, maybe the Mickey Mouse and our video game or something.
There you go.
Maybe that one. But no, for me, like, my top 5 would be the Xenomorph, the Predator, and then whatever characters in Marvel. And probably a clicker. I would love to do a clicker because I'm really good at doing a clicker. And I don't know, like, I love doing aliens because I love when I have to work to imitate a sense of language or to just like work on words and make them sound not gibberish because I don't want them to sound gibberish. But yeah, those would be, let's say, my top 5. And I was lucky enough to work on the voice of the Xenomorph because of Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight released a DLC with Ripley and the aliens. And it was the first time that they use a human voice, because before it was most of the time a scream of a baby elephant that they sound designed it afterward. So it was the first time that it was using a human as a base for the voice of the Xenomorph. So that one, I'm absolutely proud of that. And then I was lucky enough to do the voice of the Hulk in Guardian of the Galaxy. So that one, right. I just had 2 words to say: Hulk smash.
But that had been amazing.
That was it. I didn't need to have a whole script down. Just 2 words. Give me 2 words and I'm good. And yeah, I love doing aliens. Not only Xenomorph, but Alien in general, because and I don't know, there's so many things like that, different project, different games that I would love to work on. Like, I would have loved to work on Diablo because there's creature vocalization, Diablo 4, the Dead Space remake, but those were other people doing that. But you can't do them all. I accept that. Right. But I'm always trying to. This is why I traveled so much, because we met in Sweden. But and then we saw each other again at GDC in San Francisco. This is one of the things is that
we see each other in a lot of places.
Yeah, but most of the sound, even today, for creature and monster, they're done with animal sound libraries, right? Yeah. Or dehumanizer software that modify the voice. So using real voices without having to modify them too much with softwares, it's something that is not new because I've been doing it for a long time, but other people, like if you think about D. Bradley Baker, for me, that is the father of us all in terms of creature voice acting, has been doing that for like a long time. But still, if you look at all the monster and creature sound in video game, we probably occupy 0.01% of market share, for right. creature vocalization. So there's still a lot we can do without being redundant, like without having the impression that, those voices are everywhere now. No, we're not. We still have a long way to go. But this is why now we're working on sound libraries, because I know it's not everyone who can actually afford, voice actors and voice actresses or vocal stunt performers. So for an indie company that don't have a lot of budget, well,
chat, listen up.
We can actually have a product that is tailor-made for the budget and what they need, So we announced last week a partnership with a Boom library and Audio Kinetic with Strata. So we're going to start working on one, and then we have a couple of others that we will work in the next years with them. So so there's a lot of different things, and going to video game convention, seeing old friend and making new ones. Because for real, that's the thing. It's a human world, but it's not a human world in the sense that the world there's not only human, it's a world. But we're human, so we need human connection. We need to genuine people and it's not only for me a question of business, because of course when you have a business you need to do that, but for me it's more about the human experience of meeting other people that are passionate about what they do and just having a nice chat and taking a beer and then at some point when they say, hey, you're really cool, what are you doing, they ask you the question, then you can actually talk about
Right.
What you do at some point. I'm not going around in video game conference saying, hey, we're the best in the world, do that, you have to hire us. Like, when you're too pushy, for me, it doesn't work. And for me, it's true in audio. I don't know if it's true for everything in video game, but it's like you're just talking about what you do, you're passionate, and people will want to work with you.
Yeah.
Because you're
passionate. I agree.
So, yeah.
What library did you say?
What
library did you say you're working with?
Boom library.
Like BOOM?
Yeah, boom. And they're like, if you look at the type of sound library that they have, it's amazing. They have tons of amazing libraries, and of course Audiokinetic with Strata and Wise, because they've been developing Wise. It's another amazing partner to be a new content producer for them. And again, we've been blessed, me personally, starting not at the same place as other voice actors in their career, but starting right there already, and now being able to work on amazing franchise and to work with amazing partners. Like sometimes I'm just amazed by, even if I'm doing it, I'm like, I have to keep, sometimes I just sit down, I'm like, wow.
Wow.
And then I have to go back to invoicing and accounting. But once in a while, they're just like a microsecond of, whoa, of amazement. And then I go back doing stuff because I don't have too much time to lose in being amazed.
That's incredible. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on board and having a chat with us. It's been absolutely amazing. It's good to see you again as well. And Chad, if you guys have some serious projects coming up, I highly suggest, reaching out on their website and trying to get a hold of him when he's not busy, which is never. But just
no, but I always take the time, like, especially for contract requests, because it's possible contracts. So I always like, this is the priority on my list. Like when I have contract or contract requests, I stop teaching, or I stop doing other things, because this is the core of what I want to do, right? So I'm never too busy for a request. But I'm busy enough, so it's good. Well, no, thank you for again, it's for an amazing cause. So if people haven't
! Charity.
Absolutely. So if you haven't not been donating, go crazy and help reach the goal, or even surpass the goal. But yeah, thanks everyone for having me. And again, Brian, it's always a pleasure to see you.
It's always a pleasure, man. We'll catch up. You said you're going to GDC, right?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna speak about creating audio nightmare with a human voice.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, if you guys going to GDC, I highly recommend going and looking at his talks. I will never forget the first time I heard one of your talks at Nordic, and when you did the Hulk smash, and it just, everyone in the entire building just stopped. That was so insane to me. Oh,
it happens. It happens. I have that kind of effect on people when I do the strange voice.
The strange voice. No, it's an absolute pleasure, man, and I appreciate you taking the time, because I know it's late for you as well. So
it's but it's all good. It's for a good cause, and seeing you again. So thanks everyone for taking the time to chat, to listen to the rambling of an old monster.
Cheers, brother, and good luck,
Cheers.
Man. We'll talk soon.
Take care. Bye.
Goodbye.
If you want to see more of my crazy videos, click on the left side of your screen now. And down below, there's that big juicy subscribe button, and right next to it is the magic bell that if you click it, it will tell you if I've got a new video coming out. Till next time.